Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg Srisavasdi with CinemAddicts for this week, the week ending or starting however you want to see it, July 11th, 2025. For our Patreon members, we have a couple of really cool bonuses for this week, and I'm going to actually make a more conscientious effort to do this on a weekly basis. We give our Patreon members early access spoilers. So for this weekend, we have for our Patreon members early access spoilers to Daniela Forever. I do around a 10 to 12 minute discussion about the ending of this movie, Daniela Forever, which is covered right now on the upcoming episode that you're going to listen to in a few moments. So that's number one. Number two is the other film, Abraham's Boys. Eric and I actually do a little bit of the quote unquote deep dive on Abraham's Boys. Both Abraham's Boys and Daniela Forever come out on Friday, July 11th. These are among the several films that me, Eric, and Bruce review this week on CinemAddicts. And what I want to do for CinemAddicts moving forward, actually, I've been doing this for a while, but I haven't put a fine point on it. I really want to focus on giving you listeners some value-added stuff. Me, Eric, and Bruce have been doing this for quite a while, but really want to put a fine point on it that there are big movies that come out every week. For example, on Friday, I'm sure a lot of you are going to see Superman, but there are so many other opportunities to see smaller scale, indie driven, or I think most importantly, under the radar films that are not actually promoted by the big studios or not even, or as at the top algorithm or the top 3 picks for Netflix or Paramount Plus, or maybe even now Tubi. It might not be the biggest indie movie on Tubi. There are a lot of new films that actually go under the radar on a given week, and ultimately it compounds. So there's just so many movies that are not being covered, that are not part of the streaming algorithm, and maybe just get buried. And I think what we try to do in CinemAddicts is on a given week, give you guys the movies that are really not readily available because of all the things that you see on Netflix or Paramount or the big releases on the studio level. Some of these movies aren't really that great, but a lot of them are really good. For example, I really enjoyed Daniela Forever. Eric and I were really locked into Abraham's Boys. So check out the spoilers for our Patreon members. You guys will have access. Right now, it's Thursday, and I'm actually going to be doing the editing for both those spoilers right now for our Patreon members. If you are not part of our Patreon, not to worry, because I will put, these are early access spoilers. So you guys who listen to CinemAddicts and actually subscribe to either our CinemAddicts YouTube channel or my Find Your Films YouTube channel, I will be putting spoilers for these movies within several days. I want our Patreon members to get these a little bit early when these movies come out on the Friday. So maybe on the weekend that will give them a nice little early access taste of the spoilers and maybe give them a choice of what movies to watch. Oh my gosh, my battery's almost low right now. But for everyone else, if you can't afford the $5 a month, I get it. I could barely afford a cheeseburger every month. Anyways, but thank you, Patreon members. But listeners, for CinemAddicts, for our YouTube channels and our podcast, you can actually access these spoilers presumably the following week. And I'll make a better, for example, Daniela Forever and Abraham's Boys, I'm going to put them up today being Thursday or at the latest Friday. And then everyone who is a non-Patreon member or just a fellow cinematic, you guys will be able to listen to it early in the following week. Okay, so not to worry. All right? So either way, thank you guys so much for your support, and would love to actually hear some, since all three of us, we cover under the radar movies that are new on a given week, or once in a while we do recommends. We do some recommends. Bruce is going to do a recommend next week of this movie called The Night Porter starring Charlotte Rampling. But we want to hear from you guys out there. What are some under the radar movies you recommend to us? And we would love to, hear these recommendations, because we love the underdog movies or the movies that are rarely not seen. All that being said, I don't know, maybe I'll see Superman, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. We'd love to hear what you guys think of that as well. But anyways, here is I believe it's episode 302. You're going to hear it in a few moments. And I apologize for blabbing. 3, 2, 1. Here you go.
Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, More than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that. But don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 302. I'm here with my buddy Eric Holmes, my better CinemAddicts co-host Eric Holmes. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I've had a banger week this week, and I can't wait to talk about all these movies.
But you're doing great whenever there's some banger movies out, but I'm a little bit nervous because the movies we're covering for the week, beginning or ending, depending on your POV, Friday, July 11th, 2025, the movies we're covering include Sovereign, Daniela Forever, Hot Spring Shark Attack. Oh, I'm so sad I didn't get to see that movie yet. Push, Amongst the Wolves, and Abraham's Boys. Eric Holmes, it was a banger week. Is there, without leading too much, is there a stinker among the bunch? Is there something that you said, I cannot believe Greg got us these links? Or was at least some of them watchable?
But it also might be my favorite movie I saw this week.
Okay, so that is a very big conflict.
And based on the movies you just read off, I'm sure people could figure out which one that is.
Also, Bruce Purkey over at the Cinem-Attic. By the way, can you be a better supervisor to Bruce Purkey? Because he was over in the attic trying to use this thing called OBS, which us old people, I know it's a streaming service. Oh, everyone uses OBS. I'm sure the people over at middle class, film class use it. But he was up in your attic trying to use OBS, and it screwed up with his recording. And now we're a day late and $1 short of releasing CinemAddicts. We usually release it on Thursday. This is coming out. We're recording right now on a Wednesday. Listeners on the regular feed, you're going to get on Friday. Can you talk to Bruce Purkey about not experimenting with this OBS? Because OBS, he's being a POS by doing the OBS, and now we're SOL. What's going on, Eric Holmes?
I extended his leash a bit just because of did the Project Hail Mary video with me, yes, and that bought him a lot of leeway. Oh, by the way, on that, there was don't have that name in front of me. I think it was Lee Russell. They had a correction. I don't want to give the correction here because it's part of the spoiler, but they gave a correction in the comments.
Over on CinemAddicts YouTube, yes. Very good.
Yeah, and it's a valid correction. And I can't say it here because it would involve the spoiler that we want to avoid, but if you don't care about that, go to the thing, go in there, and you'll see.
So his name is Lee Russell. Correction. Lee Russell.
I don't know if it's a he or she. I don't know, but whoever posted a correction. I was like, I did not know about that, but thanks for putting that there.
Thank you. He or she, Lee Russell, I believe the name is. Thank you for correcting Eric or Bruce, whoever that is, on that Project Hail Mary video, which you can find on our CinemAddicts YouTube channel. I know I sound a lot more lively this week because I've just made a reconciliation with my own persona. This is actually, I've been worried about what's my real voice. This is just my higher voice. And you just told me last week that's my higher voice, so it's my real voice. Because I listened to us last week and I sounded like this and it sounded too monotone. And so I'm high, low, whatever, middle, ambivalent. This is just who I am. Eric Holmes, should I have learned that by now? 54?
How are you going to go? No one will know. Just do the show. Let's see how it goes.
Very good. Eric Holmes, the descendant of Dr. Seuss. Long-term, very good Eric Holmes. Now, how have you been the last week? You watching bangers? What's going on with you personally before we get into the weeds of movie watching, movie reviewing?
Not a lot personally, just working, doing this stuff, and yeah, had a bunch of movies come in. Even got a recommendation today. Maybe say that for next week because we got so many already this week. But yeah. Like last week, it was watch the 40 Acres, and I kept trying to watch other movies, and I couldn't do it because 40 Acres was so good. And then this week is just like banger after banger. I'm like, every one of these is great.
It works out because last week, understandable, that's a valid excuse. 40 Acres was so good for you. By the way, Bruce Purkey did not like 40 Acres as much as you did, Eric Holmes. I don't know if
he's wrong, and that's why I didn't take him off the leash completely. I just gave him a little more leeway.
How wrong was Bruce when he did that 40 Acres thing? He's like, I don't know what's so big about it.
It's all subjective, but
Bruce. But here's a good thing about it. We're a team. So last week,
yes,
when you only reviewed one movie, you have to give yourself credit. The prior week, you were doing all these interviews. So last week, you saw 40 Acres, but you didn't watch one movie last week. You watched several movies because you watched 40 Acres several times. And then I think you were into the whole Project Hail Mary headspace. Bruce Purkey picked up the ball for us last week, and he did a whole bunch of reviews. So he was great. He was great last week. And this week, Bruce Purkey dropped the ball. And who picked it up? You, because you basically have all of these movies under your hat. So we pick each other up. We say, yes. I'm just See, 1 week, it might not
The
be.
rising tide drowns all people that can't swim.
And next week, I was going to say it'll be my turn to hopefully run with it, pick up the ball, and help out. And I don't know if I'll do it. We'll see. I don't know if it'll be my turn next week. So maybe you or Bruce can drop the ball, and maybe it'll be my turn to pick it up. Do you think I can pick it up? Pick up the ball, whatever that ball is?
Yes.
Okay. To help us pick up the ball this month on Patreon, we have the year 1984. That is our Patreon bonus. I have dropped the ball this week right now because it's already July 9th as we're recording this. I have not reached out to our CinemAddicts Patreon patrons or our CinemAddicts Facebook group members to help me, Bruce, and Eric pick a couple of movies as well as an assigned Patreon pick for the year 1984. If you want to actually join our Patreon community, it's a $5 catch-all. We're going to cover, what we do every month is we cover a year from the years 1980 to 2020. Bruce Purkey, by the way, last week, he corrected me. He said, actually, we started, Greg, from 1990 to 2020. That was the original thing. I go, Bruce, I was an idiot. Let's just open it up from 1980 to 2020. So now it's 1984. You guys get, if you're a Patreon member, you get 1984 Spotlight. Me, Eric, and Bruce will review 2 movies called or taken from our Patreon community or our CinemAddicts Facebook group. We'll review 2 movies, as well as for our regular CinemAddicts feed, we will have an assigned pick from 1984. So it's a $5 catch-all. That's our bonus episode if you're part of our Patreon, and which I haven't been good at, but I think this week is a banger week for spoilers. People who are in our Patreon community will get spoilers earlier than the regular YouTube or CinemAddicts subscribers. What does that mean? At the end of this episode, Eric Holmes and I will do a spoiler discussion of Abraham's Boys. And this week, also, Eric does not know this, earlier today, I did a spoiler of this movie, Daniela Forever. These spoilers will be available for our Patreon members and for early access, and then several days later, after the weekend, maybe 4 or 5 days later, it'll be available on our CinemAddicts YouTube channel or whatever channels. I have the Find Your Film channel, Deepest Dream channel. We have several channels. I'm trying to get us monetized. We are only making burger money, Eric Holmes. We need to make more money. I'm saying we're going to go burger money. Do we actually make enough money for burger and Swiss, or is it just a straight burger with just no sauce on it as far as the money we make for pay?
It's just burger money, but if you're suggesting I sell my body to make it more, I will do that.
Oh, thank you, Eric Holmes. That is very...
Because I party.
Can you actually sacrifice Bruce first? Yeah, because that'd be good, because you can just... You sacrifice Bruce first, you get more space on the attic? Or what? Are you okay with that?
I'm down to take 1 or 12 for the team.
Oh, very good. You are a team player. Thank you so much, Eric Holmes. Now, Spotlight is on Eric Holmes because there's a movie called Sovereign, which I have not seen yet. I saw the trailer to Sovereign, and it has Nick Offerman in a dramatic role. I loved him in The Founder several years ago. Eric, we reviewed The Founder several years ago. The McDonald's thing. Did you see that movie, or was it me and Bruce who saw The Founder? Do you remember?
I've seen The Founder quite a few times.
Isn't that movie so good, right? Yeah. I want to be Michael Keaton, and I want you and Bruce to be like Nick Offerman and his brother in The Founder. Do you see how the thing in CinemAddicts is going to shake down?
The way it's worked is you and Anderson are the McDonald's brothers, and then me and Bruce are the Michael Keaton character coming in to overtake it.
I never said I was smart. Yeah, that's correct. That's actually correct. But anyways, this means Nick Offerman was in The Founder, great in The Founder. I saw the trailer to Sovereign. He looks really good. That's all I know is about the trailer. I have the plot synopsis here. Eric Holmes, I can read it off for you, or you could actually just start with your review and what Sovereign is about. You're the boss. You
can go. There's not a whole lot to spoil on this.
All right. Okay, Sovereign. It's in theaters or available to own or rent on July 11th. And it's, quote, inspired by true events. It's the tense and provocative true crime thriller about a dad and his teenage son, Jerry and Joseph Kane, played by Nick Offerman and Jacob Tremblay. Oh, another great actor. Wow. Who follow the sovereign citizen belief system, a deeply anti-establishment worldview rooted in distrust of government authority. As they go across country, delivering these seminars and pushing against systems that they believe failed them, their journey brings them into direct conflict with police chief Jim Bouchard, or Bochart. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Bouchard's played by Dennis Quaid. And what happens is this conflict sets up, quote, a tragic chain of events that forces a reckoning. Again, Sovereign theaters or available to own or rent July 11th. Again, the trailer looks awesome. I think there might be some action. Dennis Quaid versus Nick Offerman and Jacob Tremblay sounds interesting. Eric Holmes, Sovereign is this movie interesting?
I think for some people it might be kind of triggering just because of who Nick Offerman's character is, the kind of person that he is. Maybe you've seen like YouTube videos of sovereign citizens going into court and how they like to pretend that the rules don't apply to them because they're a sovereign citizen. And I get the idea that people would want to do this. Like, I see where they're coming from. It just doesn't work. And one of the things they point out in this, they don't really point it out like directly, but it's part of the movie, is that I shouldn't have to pay this because I'm a sovereign citizen. I never agreed to that sort of contract, or I don't want to do this because he'll come up with all this stuff that basically makes him not want to engage in the social construct that we built, but they still get to enjoy some of the benefits that come from that. You don't have a driver's license to drive on the road. He doesn't think he should have one, but the taxes pay for the road repairs and stuff. Whether that's right or wrong, that's what it is. And so he's basically trying to force himself into a world that just doesn't exist. The movie starts off with basically a crime scene, a bunch of police stuff going over, blah, 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 it's me, dead, blah, blah, blah. So right away, once you see that, and then you get a couple minutes of Nick Offerman's character, you can pretty quickly tell that, oh, that opening scene that we saw, this is probably where we're heading towards this movie. And that's exactly what it is. It's really interesting watching Nick Offerman's character, especially when he does these classes, and they're kind of, what do you call it?
Propaganda courses?
Yeah, pretty much. Not so much propaganda, but preaching to the choir. The people that go there, it's just, they already believe in that. They just want to hear someone else talk about it. And so you get to watch them do those talks, and it's pretty cool. Now, the writing in this is really good because you see all the logical fallacies Nick Offerman's character does within those talks. And that's not a aspect of the writer being a bad writer. It's the writer understanding who this character is and then knowing how they're gonna manipulate conversation, whether that be to others or themselves.
Sorry,
it's a really good.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was wondering, the way you're reviewing this movie, is it more interesting as a philosophical look at something? Because I was thinking from the trailer, it's really genrefied, or is it a very good mix of both?
The only part that gets like really genre is the end scene when everything just goes to hell. Everything leading up to that is just complete character study of Nick Offerman and how Jacob Tremblay's character looks up to him, and how what Nick Offerman's character, like how his son follows in his footsteps. And then when he gets exposed to outside ideas, how he's trying to pull away from that. But yeah, Sovereign's just really good movie. The screenwriter and the filmmaker seem to really understand the kind of people that they're talking about. And I don't think it paints them in a great light, but it doesn't paint them in an unfair light that I can see.
I think a trope for a movie like this would be maybe the writer would have framed a story like this from the POV of the teenage son, and then we would see it through his prism. Is there a specific POV for Sovereign, or does it take the POV of these three people?
Those Nick Offerman and Jacob Tremblay are together pretty much all the time. So it's hard to say whether it takes POV of one or the other, but it's both of them. But you do get scenes with Jacob Tremblay by himself. And then you get, because you have to see, we've seen how he grew up, and then now he breaks away from his dad and he gets some information about the world outside of that. And then he's got his own conflict. I love my dad. I believe him. But this stuff over here makes a little bit of sense. There's one particularly heartbreaking scene towards the end where the two of them kind of butt heads on things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because it sounds like I'm spoiling it, but like when you watch it, there's only one way this movie can go.
It's
from the outset, and even they foreshadow it like right at the opening scene. It's just, this movie's going to be a tragedy. Let's see how let's see their point of view and what their beliefs are while we wait for everything to just kind of circle the drain.
Would you describe Dennis Quaid as more of an ancillary character then, as someone who drives a plot forward to the inevitable conclusion? So
Dennis Quaid's character he's like a cop, like pretty high-ranking official, and his son is a pretty green cop. And so you get to see the perspective of the police at some points, and it doesn't really paint them in a great light either.
very
So
interesting.
this is one of those things that just because I disagree with Nick Offerman doesn't mean I agree with Dennis Quaid. They're both quite flawed, and quite honestly, we probably do better without either of them.
Oh, that sounds like a very well-rounded drama, which is, by the
Yeah.
way, written and directed by Christian Swegel, Swegal. And Eric, you complimented his writing as well, so that's a good thing. What is your last comment or opinion and rating for, yeah,
Um,
Sovereign?
yeah, double feature this with Nitram and take some antidepressants before you do it. No, this movie's really good. And yeah, I probably gonna hear a lot of this today, but we're 5 star on that.
Oh, 5 star. Okay, 5 stars from Eric Holmes for Sovereign. Very good. Okay, Eric, I'm gonna give your golden voice a little bit of a rest because for a couple minutes, I'm just gonna talk about this movie called Daniela Forever. Before you go to mute, you don't have to mute yourself. Daniela, do you like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? Do you like Inception? Do you like these movies?
Yes, yes.
Okay. This You combine these movies, or at least the construct of these movies, and you get something like Daniela Forever, which is
Hate every
written.
bit of it. Oh, sorry.
I didn't. Oh, I should have actually put the. Oh yeah, here you go. It's from visionary filmmaker Nacho Vigalondo. Nacho's previous movie credits include this Anne Hathaway movie from 2016 called Colossal, and then this other movie which I believe Bruce Purkey enjoyed, and he talked about it several years back. It's called Time Crimes, and I hear Time Crimes, Eric, is a very good movie.
Oh,
Right.
hell,
So
I should have watched this.
no, Time Crimes I hear is excellent. Now, here's the premise of Daniela Forever. Nicholas, played by Henry Golding, he's a DJ, British DJ living in Madrid, and he meets this really beautiful, just charismatic girl named Daniela, played by Beatrice Grano, at one of his DJ events. It's at night. The first opening moments deals with how they met, the night they met, and it was almost love or lust at first sight. And for several minutes, we delve into the lives of Nicholas, the DJ, and Daniela, you learn later on that she's a digital artist, okay? And she goes to his apartment in Madrid and they have a really nice meet cute situation, but that's only for several minutes because, not a spoiler, what happens is Daniela is actually, she dies in a vehicle accident. They don't show it on screen or off screen. It's mentioned throughout the narrative. And obviously, Nicholas is grieving for her death. He cannot move on with his life. He's a total mess. What happens is one of his friends, one of his colleagues, tells him that there is a new lucid dream sleep experiment which will help him get over this tragedy. Okay. And what happens is he gets a whole bunch of pills from the sleep study organization. All he has to do is every night take this white pill, down it with water, and then open up an envelope which will have a prompt, like a command for him, like maybe a word or two or a description. Once he takes a pill, he has to read that prompt, and then that prompt will help him with the medication, take him to some kind of dream state world. He screws up because he spills water on the envelope. The envelope is messed up. He doesn't know what the prompt is, but he still has the pill in his system. So what does he do without any kind of command prompt or word prompt from this organization? He starts thinking about Daniela. And the rest of the movie has those flares of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where that movie is talking about memory and the hopeful erasure of memory. This one is memory and how he wants to actually change memory, because in his lucid dream state, he sees Daniela and they actually, instead of referencing the past, he goes on new adventures with his late lover. And it's very interesting because the world, I mentioned Inception, when they're out in the world of Madrid in his dream state, there are certain buildings which has a gradient, a gray area that's not fully painted in. And he realizes in his dream state, the reason why these buildings in Madrid or streets have this gray to them, it's because he's never seen them in reality. He's never visited. He's only gone up to a certain part. So what he has to do is during the daytime, he has to visit these sections of Madrid and put them in his memory bank. Hold on one second. And once he puts it in his memory bank at night, it paints his world better. So during the day, he's traveling Madrid to see all these different places, and he can apply those new places like a canvas. So when he sees Daniela at night, they go to these places. The movie is about 118 minutes. Currently, as of this recording, the Rotten Tomato score is 82%. It's a very acquired taste. I don't know if what I'm trying to explain to you, Eric, has you intrigued about Daniela Forever. This whole thing about meeting your lover in dream states and with medication. Are you, yeah? What do you think?
I was sold on Time Crimes and Colossal. You already had
Oh,
me there.
oh, I had no idea. I don't know. Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
clueless because I haven't seen these movies. Okay, my bad. Oh, all right. So you've seen Time Crimes or you've heard of them. I don't know. That's great. Here's the thing. I really enjoyed this movie. It's one of these films where when you see it the first time, your mind might have, you might rate it a little bit lower. So I'm upscaling my rating because I saw the ending twice and I've been thinking about this movie a lot the last couple of days since I've seen it. It doesn't make you weepy or teary. It didn't get me really emotional, but that shouldn't be a bad thing either. But I still really enjoyed where this movie went. I think some of the complaints for Daniela Forever is there isn't really any huge stakes of this movie. It's just about a guy who's in love with a girl and he's trying to get over her and he's making up this world about her. Huh. So people might really not like the low stakes of it, but I really dug this film, even though we don't talk about personal stuff here at all, but I'm not in a really amazing, sublime relationship myself. I can still relate to this on a cinematic level. And the good thing about it, third act, it totally sticks the landing. It's a very moving ending, at least from my POV. Again, this will be a divisive movie, but I really enjoyed. Oh, I forgot to mention during the reality situations when Nicholas is in reality, the camera, it's a 4:3 aspect ratio, and the images are shot on like a camcorder. So it's very grainy during the day, but then when it goes at night, it's widescreen and it's immersive and it's beautiful to look at. It's only during the day when he's off the drugs where you get that 4:3 aspect ratio. Some people might find that to be a little bit too pretentious. I thought it worked. But Daniela Forever in theaters exclusively on July 11th. I'm giving 4 stars. Look for it in theaters if you want a personal romantic drama with a little bit of just interesting visual immersion. But in down the line, if you don't see it in theaters, give it a shot on digital and on demand. That is Daniela Forever, 4 stars from Wellgo USA Entertainment and XYZ Films. So that's it. And I should probably watch Colossal and Time Crimes. I definitely want to watch those after watching Daniela Forever.
Yes.
All right. Now, Eric Holmes, Hot Spring Shark Attack. I saw that trailer. Here we go. Small, but I have this fantasy, and I'm not going to make it's not a gross fantasy, but I've always wanted to visit a hot spring town in Japan, not for just corrupt reasons, but
I thought your fantasy was getting attacked by a shark in a hot spring.
I've always wanted to go into a hot spring. Now, I think I've told you this a million times. Back in March 6th or March 7th, I was 206 pounds, and now I'm at 161 pounds. I've lost 45 pounds in several months, Eric, and I want to take hopefully, I want to lose a little bit more. I want to take that new physique and go into a hot spring and enjoy it. Yeah, I like hot springs, saunas, steam rooms, whatever. I like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So hot spring was great. Shark attack, not so great. So I'm looking at the trailer. It says,
Allegedly. Have you been attacked by a shark?
I know.
So you don't know.
I don't.
It could be awesome.
You're right. It could be awesome. Here's the thing with this movie. Small hot spring town in Japan. A quote, ferocious ancient shark reawakens and the shark is terrorizing the local hot spring facilities. This is a nightmare. As the threat escalates, the townspeople band together to protect their town from the predator, leading to a fierce and thrilling battle. Eric Holmes, take it away with Hot Spring Shark Attack.
All right, I'm not going to bear the lead. This is a 1-star movie. However, this might be the most entertaining movie I've ever seen, maybe ever. And the only reason I give it 1 star is because I think the filmmakers of this, what you did. And like they would hear me give it a 1 star. And, yep, we expected that. But did he enjoy himself? Also, yes. This movie is freaking ridiculous. The special effects are very crude. Like a lot of the times the sharks look like really badly done latex sharks. or like hand puppet things.
Yeah.
The shark attack. So the sharks, the way they get into the hot springs is that they have, you know how sharks are, their bones are mostly cartilage, so they can somehow squeeze themselves into a 1 inch long pipe and then squeeze themselves into the.
Okay, you're
And
right.
these sharks are like megalodon-sized sharks, like they're supposed to be really huge. At some point, like they look at the ground, start steaming up, and a pool will come up, like in concrete, and the sharks will come up out of the concrete and eat people. There's a part like about halfway through where the camera stays on the shark and it just goes, shark. And then when the sharks are going after them, they're just like going after people in like groups. They're like, shark. There's one guy that's like a superhero type. He'll hold his breath underwater and beat up the sharks. And he's almost like a superhero. I don't want to give away the king shark,
Okay.
but there's a king shark and it's actually wearing a crown. This movie is stupid.
Okay,
It's
this
completely.
movie is not for blank. This movie is definitely not for blank.
This movie is not for people that hate fun. If you hate fun, stay the hell away from Hot Spring Shark Attack. When Hip Hop Witch was going around, and people were
Sure.
like, "Oh my God, I can't believe how bad this movie is," and then you think you're gonna watch it, it's bad, but it's gonna be funny. But it turned out it was just bad and boring. This one's bad, but it's also hilarious. And the stuff that happens in this just doesn't make sense. And the best part about it is only about an hour long.
Oh,
So it doesn't stretch that joke out to 3 hours to where it's, I get it, move on. Like it's in and out and you're done. Just, this is a movie you bring people over, drink some beers, smoke weed or whatever, and watch it and go, what in the actual hell am I watching?
did you audibly laugh
Because
while
all
watching this movie?
pretty much throughout the whole thing. This, yeah, and the movie's ridiculous, and I haven't even scratched the surface on what this movie has to offer. There's so many weird things that happen in this.
It's not even violent. It's not violent, right? The eating, the
It's very violent,
oh,
but the
cartoonish.
incompetent. Like effects are so bad, you're not going to look at the screen and turn your head away. It doesn't look real at all. Yeah,
Wow.
just watch Hot Spring Shark Attack.
What's funny is
I,
it's playing in a whole
I
bunch of cities on July 11th, Eric, and
yeah,
in LA, specifically Glendale, Lamley Glendale, is playing for a full week. So
go watch it. Like
Really?
you go watch it. If they're playing it in theaters, definitely do that because you're gonna have people watching, it going, just having a great time. You probably have a couple of people get up and like, what the hell is this, and just walk out. And I feel bad giving it 1 star because I think this is actually like a 3-star banger. Right?
Bruce likes
This
one
movie's
star
doing.
banger. Is it a 1 star banger, Bruce, to say that?
The reason I hate giving it 1 star is because it's incredibly entertaining to watch. But the only reason I'm giving it 1 star is because I know that's what the filmmaker's going for. So I'm doing this for them. This 1 star's for you because you know what you did, and I'm giving you what you want. But also, this movie's incredibly entertaining.
My problem with Hot Spring, my fault. I forgot to actually look up the name of the directors. Let's just,
Oh, I got it. It's Morihito Inouye,
okay.
Inoue,
Yeah.
writer and director.
Wow.
Yeah, the acting in this is really bad. It's hard to tell if the acting's bad or if that's the style they're going for. I can't really tell. The characters are insane. The physics in this makes no sense whatsoever. The character decisions are asinine. The sharks come up through the concrete and not busting through the concrete, but like the concrete's there and they just like meld through the concrete like the concrete's water.
That's funny. That's
None of it makes sense, but it's freaking hilarious.
okay. So that is 1 star from Eric Holmes, but 1 star with a huge caveat for Hot Spring Shark
A,
Attack, which will.
a 1 star that's actually a 6.9.
Oh, I love that. I'm glad Eric Holmes actually
It-
threw that one in.
It's a 6.9 in 1 star clothing.
Hot Spring Shark Attack. Check it out in theaters Friday, July 11th. I will leave a link. We will leave a link of where it is playing at hopefully, near your local city. So some of them, it will be a one night only experience. But if you're somewhere in Glendale, California, you'll have a full week to catch Hot Spring Shark Attack.
Yeah, this is like one of those movies where it's like I think most of their budget went towards the drugs for the filmmakers that made this thing.
Oh my goodness. Eric Holmes, we have 3 more movies to cover. We're 45 minutes in. This is going to be our longest episode ever.
Probably.
My goodness. I think we can look. Bruce Purkey is going to do cinematic, but maybe this should just be its own entire episode altogether and then have cinematic on another episode because Bruce Willis could do cinematics and then I'll have some of Eric's.
If you had split them up, who's gonna watch this shit? Oh, sorry, his
Oh,
family show.
who's going to watch it? All right, that very good point, Eric. That's a very good point. Speaking of which, let's go to the couple movies that Eric and I both watched that we both watched. I'm going to give you the shot, Eric. Amongst the Wolves or Abraham's Boys? Which one do you want to go first?
Wait, you know what? Where's the coin? It's already going on long enough. Amongst
Yeah.
the Wolves is first. Let's just do that one.
All right. Amongst the Wolves, set in the shadows of Dublin's criminal underworld. The story follows an ex-soldier played by Luke McQuillan and a runaway teen played by, I did not put his name here, something Fee, F-E-E. The runaway teen whose paths collide in a high-stakes journey of redemption and survival in this gripping watch that blends high-stakes action with human depth. Co-stars Aidan Gillen. You might know Aidan Gillen from his work in...
Daniel Fee.
Thank you. Daniel Fee plays the teenager, the troubled teenager. Will. Very good. Thank you, Eric. Now, Aidan Gillen from Game of Thrones. He plays this low... When I mean low level because of where it's located, but he is within that small town. He is the big person on campus. He is a very intimidating crime lord within that small town. Okay, so it's Amongst the Wolves, and this Aidan Gillen character, he has a whole bunch of people working under him. They're moving drugs. They have I think he owns a demolition site for the cars, like a car junk site. And the Aidan Gillen character has his just feet in so many different parts of the town. I'm assuming that's how he makes a lot of his money. And this teenager works for him. And what happens is because the teenager screwed up while on the job, the teenager screwed up because he was selling drugs. And his mother was so pissed off at him, she put those drugs in the toilet and flushed it. And now the teen is in trouble and he's trying to escape this crime boss. And this other guy, this haunted ex-soldier played by Luke McQuillan, teams up with the teen to actually help the teen out. And that is the premise of Amongst the Wolves. It's in theaters and VOD July 11th. The genre it's an Irish crime thriller. As of this recording, the Rotten Tomato score is 100%. Eric Holmes, your review and thoughts on Amongst the Wolves.
Yeah, the stuff that you were explaining has a Barron's Cove feel set up to it, where it's like he's kind of like a mob boss, but like vaguely a mob boss sort of thing. But yeah, it's also like a kind of a homeless movie.
Yeah.
You got Danny and Will. Danny's basically just finding somewhere warm to sleep, sits next to a fire. Will comes up behind him with a knife. Then Danny wrestles a knife, holds it up to Will. He's got him dead to rights, and he's like, all right, I told you, I'm not here to hurt you. Then Will's like, okay, you could have killed me if you wanted to, and you didn't, so it's probably fine. I think where this movie drags a bit is the family issues Danny's having, the custody issues. They keep cutting back to it.
That's fair.
But I think there's already so much going on in this that they probably could have cut that whole subplot out entirely. That said, the subplot's done well. I just didn't think it really needed it. It's kind of like adding barbecue sauce to a hamburger. It's still good. Don't know that you needed the barbecue sauce, but it's here and it's fine. But yeah, I guess the big part of the movie is Danny trying to get Will out of his predicament because he sees that he's in trouble, and he's not really equipped to do so because he didn't have the money. And
he's a soldier.
He's got his own problems.
PTSD. Yes, PTSD.
Yeah. Even beyond that, like just where he's at in life, and I guess this is probably where all the custody stuff comes into play, is that he's not in a place where he can really help Will, but he does it anyway. It's cool watching him help this guy out, even to his own detriment.
Yeah, Danny sees Will as a surrogate son. By his son, totally. Because he hasn't done really right by his own son in a weird way. I suppose it's a trope, right? So it's not a big spoiler. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good movie. I would say an interesting thing about this doesn't track towards the end, but a lot of the violent aspects of this, the camera kind of cuts away and does weird things. Like when Danny and when they first met and Will's got the knife up to Danny and Danny wrestles it from him, the camera just points up that way and kind of wiggles around a bit. And then we cut back. So we don't even see what happened. We just know there's a struggle of some sort. And then now we see Danny's got Will turned around. Or what was another one? There's like stuff like that when there's like an altercation or a bit of violence is about to happen. And then the camera just cut to a weird angle, flop around to where you can't even see anything. It's almost like the movie was trying very hard to not make this an exploitation movie.
Good point.
Although then that kind of goes away towards the end where they're getting a little violent with one of the characters. They don't linger on it, but you do see some blood towards the end.
The
But
ending to me is a chef's kiss. I don't know if you agree with me on that. That is a divisive ending. I really like the ending quite a bit, where you find out certain fates. By the way, the movie, I don't want to that was a leading question, Eric. I apologize. You can tell me if you like it or not. But the ending is pretty, I think, memorable. Luke McQuillan, who plays Danny, the homeless ex-soldier, is a co-writer of Amongst the Wolves. It's co-written by Luke McQuillan, the aforementioned Luke McQuillan, and Mark O'Connor. Mark O'Connor is the director of Amongst the Wolves. Eric mentioned the camera movements and the storytelling. What the thing about Amongst the Wolves is, I think we can assume that this movie wasn't shot for a huge budget, but I think with whatever budget they have for this movie, it's an elevated experience. Bruce Purkey, who you're going to actually listen to his review in moments after this episode, this very big episode, because Bruce saw Amongst the Wolves as well. He compared it to Blue Ruin. I think accurately so, because of back then, the Blue Ruin filmmakers. I forgot the name of the director. I'm such a moron.
Jeremy Saulnier.
Saulnier, right? Jeremy Saulnier.
Yeah.
He probably didn't have that much money as well, and he was, oh, there you go, Blue Ruin. Of course, you got Blue Ruin. I'm a moron. Yeah, it has some Blue Ruin vibes to it, but again, Amongst the Wolves is a very interesting, singular experience, a very solid film. I forgot to mention there's also another actress who plays a social worker who ends up helping or being a possible aid to both Danny and Will. That's another little bit of a mini subplot. To Eric's point, there are a bunch of subplots in Amongst the Wolves. You might feel that there's a little bit too much barbecue on this burger, or not, because Eric was not completely complaining about the barbecue. I was fine with all that sauce on my burger. I really loved everything about Amongst the Wolves. The genre stuff, when it gets violent towards the third act, I was into that as well. I'm giving Amongst the Wolves, yeah, this is actually something I would, if it was on streaming, I'd watch again. I'm giving it 4.5 stars just because of the performances. Luke McQuillan and Fee, I'm sorry, you're saying something Fee, the kid Daniel Fee, they both do such a great job, and you believe them, and it's gritty as what? 4.5 stars for me for Amongst the Wolves. What about you, Eric Holmes?
I think I'm there too. And again, like the barbecue sauce, it's good barbecue sauce. It would have been fine without it.
Yeah.
It was a great burger to begin with. You put barbecue sauce, didn't need it, but it didn't ruin it.
And let's face it, Eric and I, we're barbecue sauce fans. I'll put a barbecue sauce on my freaking ice cream, and I'll still say, doesn't need it, but it's still barbecue sauce. Right? Yeah. So
but yeah, Amongst the Wolves, definitely worth your time.
Okay, so that is 4.5 stars for me and 4.5 stars for Eric. Again, Amongst the Wolves is in theaters and available on VOD July 11th. If you're not in theaters, we have a whole bunch of Amazon Associates links. If you go to our show information, you can click it, rent, purchase some of these movies we're reviewing. Me, Eric, and Bruce, and even Anderson, a co-founder, we all get a little bit of a nice little chunk of change from whatever you purchase or rent from the movies we're covering. So thank you again in advance for supporting us via these Amazon links. And hopefully, Eric Holmes, we can maybe get a burger with a little truffle in it. Maybe we'll make some money from these.
I'd rather put barbecue sauce on it.
Very good. I'm going to make Eric work a little bit more before we get to our final review of the episode, before we get to Bruce Purkey over at the Cinem-Attic. There's a movie called Push, which I am really PO'd. I'm mad that I didn't get to. This is one of these movies that I really wish I saw. Quote, haunted by the memory of her late fiancée, Natalie Flores, played by Alicia Sanz. She is 8 months pregnant and she needs a new start. Determined to get that new start, she travels to America, moves there, and uses her real estate license to take on a challenging listing. However, things are not good because she catches the eye of a sadistic killer, played by Raul Castillo, was in Smile 2. And he was also in, Eric mentioned it, Baron's Cove a month ago. Eric Holmes is just nodding right now. If you're just nodding his head. Yep, he remembers Raul Castillo from Baron's
Cove. It's an audio podcast.
Yeah,
they heard that.
It's also a video. So that sadistic killer is played by Raul Castillo, and he's at her open house. After becoming stranded at the property, Natalie falls into premature labor. starting a physiological ticking clock as she must find a way to escape the killer before she gives birth. It hits Shudder July 11th. The running time is 89 minutes. Ooh, I might even watch it today. 89 minutes only for Push. And again, I did not put the name of the writer and director the writers and directors who Eric, I believe, loves from their work on The Djinn. Eric, I apologize. I just turned off right now on my thing. It's my bad.
Yeah.
But
we got Justin Douglas Powell and David Onier, maybe. I'm
okay.
sure Charbonier. I'm sure I butchered that last name.
All three of us over at CinemAddicts were huge fans of their previous work, The Djinn, and I think they did a movie before The Djinn, which I have not seen yet. Maybe Eric did see it, but
the only one I've seen is The Djinn, and that movie's excellent.
Fantastic.
Loved
Still,
it.
several years later, I'm frustrated that more people have not seen The Djinn. That's just an elevated, great movie. But Push, July 11th, Eric Holmes, does this movie work for you as well?
So this movie's kind of similar to The Djinn, in which Djinn is a little kid in a apartment, and this is a woman in a house. That's pretty much the only location we're at. And
I know what happens. She is pregnant. The sadistic killer ends up turning into a nicer guy. He helps her deliver the baby, and then they end up buying the house together and living happily ever after.
We're not supposed to give spoilers here. That's exactly what happens.
Oh, jeez. All right. I'm sorry, Eric.
And he's Push. Oh, it's a little child. We don't want to spoil everything.
Because the child, it makes people change. You can turn from a killer to an angel.
She's just running from this guy. It starts off incredibly slow. Like the whole opening title sequence is just her walking through this big ass house. And
needed or not needed, the slow, methodical nature of it.
That's the tone they're going for. Just kind of let it go. I was getting to the point where, had I not already loved The Djinn, I probably would have checked out. But since I love The Djinn so much, I'm like, these guys, they're gonna do me right. We'll stick with it. So I gave them a little leeway that I wouldn't otherwise give filmmakers, because like sometimes when they do that, movies do that, and I keep watching the movie, and then it turns out that, you're filling time, and then it doesn't have a payoff, and I feel like I've been cheated the whole time. Not the case with these guys. Like they've already earned my trust, so I'm going to give them a break on this. And it turned out to pay off quite a bit. Now the guy chasing her, it seems like a serial killer thing, or maybe a siege movie of sorts. But it gets to the point where you're not sure if he's an actual human or this is a supernatural thing.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
So it's like when you watch the movie, it kind of waffles back and forth between which one it is, which usually means it's supernatural. Not necessarily here, but it could be.
So you're disoriented while you're watching it a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. Because did she even bother running from this person or this thing? Or is she just effed and just stay there, and because they're never going to stop and you're just going to die one way or another? But also, as she's running away, she's pregnant. So there's a couple times where I'm watching her like try to squeeze through these bars or whatever, or she's in an elevator and then she's trying to pull herself up. Like you just see her stomach push up against things.
No way.
There's more than a couple times where I'm like, that baby's dead. She might get out of this, but that baby ain't lived through this. But yeah, it's a pretty good thriller.
Are you nervous throughout? You're disoriented, but you're nervous because of all these things that are happening.
The fact that she's pregnant makes it worse, because you're not only worried about her well-being, but you're also worried, like when she's trying to, she gets in a physical situation and then she's got no choice of, you're worried about the baby inside of her. And I think they play with that quite a bit. I think they might play with it a little too hard, because again, there's a couple of points where I'm like, there's zero chance that baby is born alive. But yeah, it comes to the end and things happen, and you will have to wait and watch and see for yourself. But overall, I think between this and The Djinn, I think The Djinn's a better movie, but this one's good too. I definitely check it out.
Okay, what is your rating on Push? Again, running at
probably 3.5 on this one.
Okay, cool.
May go up to 4, but this is a case where, like, they set the bar way too high for themselves with The Djinn. Didn't quite meet that bar, but still good movie.
All right, catch Push, 3.5 stars from Eric Holmes on Shudder starting July 11th. Bruce Purkey will also have a review of Push in the coming moments. Bruce Purkey reviewed Push and Amongst the Wolves, and he also has a review of this movie. I think it stars Charlotte Rampling, called The Night Porter, coming up soon. We're going to close with our final movie of the week. My goodness. Yeah, we did pretty well, Eric. It's a pretty long episode here. We covered so much. This is our last one. This is called... I'm looking at the movies that we... Can you believe we didn't even cover Bang or To a Land Unknown? Maybe we'll cover that. Just kick the can for next week. But this movie that we were reviewing for our last movie for this week, for me and Eric, it's Abraham's Boys, directed by Natasha Kermani, and it's based on a short story by Joe Hill. Are you a fan of Joe Hill, Eric Holmes?
Yes.
Okay.
Stephen King's son,
Yes.
Joe King. You got to be. That's probably why he goes by Joe Hill. He doesn't want to say. You got to. Oh, you got to be joking.
Very good.
Right.
It centers...
Not the first person to say that, I'm sure, which is why he goes by Joe Hill, which not a bad game. Not a bad name to go by.
Yeah, and he's made it, like you said, he's made a name for himself anyway. So he's a very popular. The Black Phone, which I still have not seen.
Black Phone is great. The short story is great. The movie's great. What was it?
Horns. He did the Horns, right? From years back, he did the Horns movie.
I didn't see Horns.
Ooh, I think you like that
there
one.
was it Into the Grass or something like that? Or Among the Grass? It's like a Netflix thing. I thought that was him. I had to look it up. But yeah, he's done quite a few things. And pretty much most things I've seen that he was involved in, either based on his short story or whatever, have been pretty good. So I was excited to see this one.
So Abraham's Boys, it centers on Max and Rudy Van Helsing. They are kids. I think Max is the older one. And they've grown up under the strict rule of their dad, Abraham Van Helsing. Their mother is played by Jocelyn Donahue, who was seen, I think, over a year ago in the, what's that movie, Last Stop to Yuma or something like, or what's that Yuma movie?
Oh, The Last Stop in Yuma County?
Yeah, she was the waitress in Last Stop at Yuma County. So she was very good in this movie as well. But it's ultimately, this is set, Abraham's Boys is set in Central California. I think, was it 18 or 15 years after the events of Dracula? Yes, Eric.
Into the Tall Grass says that was Joe Hill and Stephen King.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just had to correct myself there.
No, I've never seen that. Did you ever get to see that, or you haven't seen that?
Yeah, it was on Netflix. I think it was a Netflix movie.
Okay. Abraham Van Helsing is played by Titus Welliver. Max Van Helsing is played by Brady Hepner, and Judah Mackey plays Rudy Van Helsing. Max and Rudy, their kids, they're under the rule of their dad Abraham, again played by Titus Welliver. Jocelyn Donahue is Mina Van Helsing, and the reason why they're in Central California is they're supposedly escaping the clutches of, or the presence of, Dracula. But the problem is Mina still has some residue of her encounter with Dracula. Maybe she's a little bit sickly, or maybe she sees visions. Things are not good with her. While, by the way, Abraham Van Helsing, as the patriarch of the family, he has a strict rule of just keeping all of the strangers in that Central California county away from their house. They live in a house on a hill, and maybe whoever actually enters their domicile, maybe it's not like they're not going to show them the great welcome or whatnot, but they'll be a little bit wary of strangers that come to their home. Maybe Abraham Van Helsing has a good reason because of the events that happened with Dracula. Yes,
they've been pretty open to strangers because there'd be people come by. The one person that had the thing, he had to puncture the hole in his lung to let the blood out and then put that tube in there.
That's true.
So it felt like the people nearby knew that he was one to go to. He's like the doc. Like,
right.
If you're nearby and you need help, he can help you at least enough to get you to hospital.
That's right. He's cordial enough, but Abraham has this situation where they might be isolationists. He's trying to protect his family at all costs. And you understand that because of all of the events that happened in Dracula. Here is the big caveat. Running at 89 minutes, Abraham's Boys, people might be thinking that this movie, which is exclusively in theaters July 11th, is going to be a Dracula story. I don't want to give too much away, but it's more of a family drama, Eric. Would you consider?
Spoiler alert, the opening title is 18 years after the death of Dracula. So it's very much not a Dracula story.
Right.
This is a Van Helsing story. It's the best way to put it is after Van Helsing did all the stuff that you've heard about in different movies or books, or certainly in the book, that's where he comes from. But after Van Helsing has done all that, they killed Dracula. What's his life like now? And this is 18, about 18 years after he killed Dracula, and now he's has a family. But like you said, there's something with his wife that's lingering with that. But again, also to your point, that's not what it is. It's a family movie, like a family drama, because we get to watch his sons and his family. Their families raised isolationists a little bit. They're not completely, but a little bit. And why are we doing this, Dad? And there's Abraham's like secretive about a bunch of stuff that the boys seem to be a little curious about. But I'll probably stop it there because I almost said too much.
No, you didn't say too much. One thing I really love about this movie is even though it has someone like a Titus Welliver in it, this movie isn't, and it's Joe Hill with that sort of entree. Natasha Kermani I'm assuming, did not have a lot of money to shoot with Abraham's Boys. And the actual locations of this movie, it's almost closed off. You get the house, you get a couple of exterior locales, but I think it visually the movie really does well, even though the heart of it is the drama and the dialogue between the father and the family. It's a family drama. There's enough visuals in this movie to keep me interested for the 89 minutes. So I think Kermani is a very just interesting filmmaker, and I loved what she did with Joe Hill's material. Kermani also is also the screenwriter, so she adapted Joe Hill's material for Abraham's Boys. I loved the drama. I loved where it went. And Eric and we're going to talk some spoilers after we're done recording the show on Abraham's Boys. I really enjoyed the third act. So I'm giving Abraham's Boys, again, with a caveat of don't expect a Dracula story, but expect a Van Helsing story and expect a first-rate drama. I'm giving Abraham's Boys 4.5 stars. I really liked it. And the ending to me, where you figure out the themes and where Abraham's Boys goes, hit me hard pretty. It was a knockout punch for me. What about you, Eric?
I'm gonna go 5 stars on this because I was definitely like probably 4.5, and then the last bit of this movie turned it around. Not really turned it around because I was already enjoying it, but it was that, oh, okay.
Yeah,
similar to Place of Bones or Old Henry, where it was already good, but then towards the end they threw that little extra sauce on it.
Oh,
and this is the barbecue sauce that made it better.
Oh my God.
The hamburger was already good, but then that barbecue sauce this is a case where the barbecue sauce elevated the hamburger a bit.
And they used Natasha Kermani used some cinematic tropes towards the end, makes it really subtle, but it really...
And unfortunately, like the stuff I really loved, and this is why we had to do a spoiler, because the stuff I really loved about it, I don't even want to hit that.
Yeah.
The weird thing, it's not like a huge twist or anything. It's just, it does a thing.
Eric said, I'm just going to say, Eric's going to be mad at me, but Eric is saying, I don't want to hit that. That's something Abraham Van Helsing would never say. That's all I'm going to say. Abraham's Boys, he wouldn't mind hitting that. And that's all. I know you're pissed at me for even saying that. But Abraham's Boys, exclusively in theaters, July 11th.
That seems like something I would say. I'm not even mad. I'm just surprised.
You're surprised. Oh, I was surprised at how much I really enjoyed Abraham's Boys. I'm surprised that Eric gave it 5 stars. We cover so many movies every week. It would be interesting to see what Bruce Purkey would have thought of Abraham's Boys. Yeah. Anyways,
based on how it turns out, and I guess I should probably mention this, there's a chance that when you get to the part that I loved, and I think Greg loved it as well.
Oh, yeah.
There are people that are going to get to that and be like,
come on.
That'll turn them off.
Okay.
And we'll talk about more of why that isn't spoilers, but I could see people going either way on this one.
Okay. The good thing is yes, I agree. People will go either way, but Eric and I are on the bright side of that rainbow, the really nice part of the rainbow, not the part where that it ends into dark places. So even though Abraham's Boys is a dark movie, Abraham's Boys exclusively in theaters July 11th, 4.5 stars for me and 5 stars for Eric Holmes. That is it for this installment of CinemAddicts. But Eric says we got to actually wait for Bruce Purkey because he was doing this thing in the attic, and make sure you discipline him next time so we don't release our CinemAddicts episode a day late and $1 short. Eric, are you going to give him good talking to after this recording?
That's a stern talking to. You better not. Better not.
Hey, Project Hail Mary goes to Project Discipline Bruce after this recording. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Yes.
Bruce Purkey, good job on trying to just fiddle with the OSB or OBS, whatever you're doing up in the attic, but just make sure you're on time. And
I think
it's
IBS.
I love it. But I wish I had the drum fill for IBS. Bruce Purkey, just for your punishment for being late on these reviews, you're going to have to review at least 20 movies for us next week. And Eric and I, we're going to take a siesta, boat drinks and burgers with barbecue sauce. Okay.
So I got to watch 2 tonight because I got 2 interviews tomorrow.
Oh, no.
And then
do you know what those movies are? Oh, my goodness.
I do. I don't have them in front of me, so I don't
No
know what
worries.
they're just yet. But also, I watched that movie. Turned out it was because I went over to a friend's house. It's called Straw. It was on Netflix. I got there. He'd already been watching it, so probably about 5 minutes of the movie had already played. I didn't know it was a Tyler Perry movie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to review Straw right now, Eric?
No, we can say this is already going on long enough. We can save it for next week. But it's just real quick. Straws on Netflix. It's really good. I'll talk more about it next week. But yeah, I like Straw quite a bit.
Okay. So here, last recommendation. Go see Straw. Eric, why should people see Straw? Like 5, 6, one sentence.
We'll talk about it next week.
Oh, look at that. Eric Holmes with the tease.
We'll talk about it next week, and then I'll give away some spoilers because there's a part that I really did not like, and I want to give that away.
Okay.
Here's a chance. Watch Straw now, and we'll do full-on spoilers next week when I talk about it.
And again, for our Patreon members, we will be doing in moments spoilers for Abraham's Boys. That will be available for our Patreon members. But don't worry, as long as you subscribe to our CinemAddicts YouTube channel, or sometimes I'm going to start doing some reviews on our last YouTube channel, Find Your Films. I have some spoilers there. You're going to catch us on Find Your Films, Deepest Dreams, CinemAddicts. The key, and I know this is inside baseball, to get all our channels monetized. So me, Bruce, and Eric, and even Anderson gets a little cut. We want it all monetized so we can make money. We can start having burgers and fries. What else are we going to have with more money? Burgers, fries, barbecue sauce.
Human fingers.
Oh, no, that's a little bit too graphic for the family show.
Okay, it's family show babies' fingers, I guess.
So, yes, please support us, and thank you so much for your patronage and listening to CinemAddicts. Eric Holmes, I'm going to leave the final thought to you before we head on to Bruce Purkey.
Yes, a lot of great movies this week, and one that's like great, but also I gave 1 star, but that's because it's great. We're dead center in the middle of banger season, and I'm here for it.
All right. See you guys next week. And of course, here's Bruce Purkey over at the Cinem-Attic.
Welcome to another week of CinemAddicts, the attic of cinema. I have dusted myself off, dusted off the bats, let them fly out into the night and catch some bugs, and dusted off 3 movies for you this week. I really saw 4, but I think I'll talk about the other one next week. 3 movies I have dusted off this week. I dusted off Push. Another movie is called Amongst the Wolves. And the last one is truly dusted off because it was from 1974, and that is The Night Porter. Now, this is the second time for recording this. I did the first recording yesterday, and hopefully the audio today is good. I was messing around with OBS, trying to use OBS as my recording platform, and I don't quite have it dialed in, but I think now it's pretty good. It was all out of sync and weird, and I had to do some tinkering with it. Anyway, let me know if it's terrible or good enough or whatever. We're never going to be a huge operation, so it's always going to be a little bit janky and a little bit rough around the edges. But hey, what do you expect? This is a free product unless you're really doing the Patreon. And thank you if you are doing the Patreon. Now, 2 screeners. Let's get to them. Push, directed by David Sharp and Justin Powell. They directed a little indie horror movie called The Djinn 3 years ago maybe, and we really liked that movie. It was a real surprise for us, kind of a cool little horror thriller, mostly a thriller, character-driven piece, but it was a lot of fun. And I know Eric is really excited for this movie, and I was just like, oh, I'm curious to see what this movie is. I don't know much of anything about it. It's called Push. Let's see. So it starts out in Barcelona in 93, but then quickly jumps forward a little bit from there. And Barcelona is just there to show us that she had a car wreck, and essentially her love, I think he's either her fiance or husband, I forget. Our main character's love interest dies in a car wreck. And then you fast forward a little bit further, and she is now in, was it Michigan? Yeah, northern Michigan, it says. And she is very pregnant, assuming by the person who's now dead. And you find out that she's basically got this house, this giant manor, like really giant manor, like a huge old Gothic mansion that she's trying to sell as a real estate agent, which is her role. But like I said, she's very pregnant too. So the beginning, I don't know, 20 minutes or so is her wandering around this estate, getting it ready to show to people and to sell. And it's funny because it was like a Chekhov's gun thing where you see her going around and various things in this estate you are sure are going to come into play. There's this weird elevator that rises out of the floor, old-fashioned floor-to-floor elevator you have in one of these mansions. And that's going to come into play later, and it does. There's an old family crypt out back like you'd see in a Hammer movie. Once again, that's going to come into play, and it does. A lot of stuff like that, which is fine, very traditional kind of storytelling style. And one thing that did bother me a little bit, though, is throughout this movie, wherever she goes, she is constantly cradling her pregnant belly, like holding it. Just like we know she's pregnant. We don't have to be reminded, but constantly holding it. I don't know if it's just an acting choice or if there was a direction there that she, make sure they notice you're pregnant. I guess something like that. But and I couldn't also help from basically the first moment we see she's pregnant. I'm like, oh, it's called push. I guarantee at some point she's going to have to push, and she does. So all that stuff is pretty in your face. The basic concept is this: she only gets one client during the day at this giant manor, and she wants to sell this thing. She needs this commission because obviously this house, if anyone buys it, is going to cost, I don't know, $20 million, $10 million, I don't know, millions of dollars. So she'll get a pretty good commission, and she needs that. And this one client shows up, and he walks around the house, and he's creepy, and then he leaves. And then for the rest of the movie, she's terrorized by that guy. He's going to get in, he's going to get her, he's going to stalk her, he's going to freak her out, he's going to maybe try to kill her baby, who knows? All kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, so it becomes cat and mouse game, a really traditional thriller. When I say really traditional, I'm going to put a capital T on traditional. This movie feels very old-fashioned in its style, and that could be a plus or a minus. Now, on the plus side of things, it's fun sometimes to see this really traditional style of a thriller and suspense built up. Like I said before, you set up all the locations and you set up this very clear situation, and then you're just trying to see how it's going to play out and, you know, what this guy is going to do, and is she going to be able to make it out of there alive, and is she going to be able to get any help? It also doesn't hurt that if they made it in the 90s. This is another trope in a way now, placing movies pre-cell phone. So that way you have no reason for your main character to be able to quickly and easily call someone and say, I'm being terrorized in this isolated country estate. Can you please send the police? That being said, various other people do enter the story and possibly offer her help or assistance. And that kind of, I won't obviously spoil that here. So on the traditional side, like I said, it's not super violent. There are a few moments, but it doesn't have that feeling of a newer film where it could be really hardcore violence or really hardcore, like stylish editing and stuff. This is done under, like I said, a very much more of a old-fashioned kind of approach to this kind of story. And I think for people who miss that, this might be great because this is going to really fill a void. This kind of movie just doesn't get made anymore. And for them, I think I could go straight to the rating really quick before I get into some other stuff, but I'll probably go 3-star banger on this because what the point of a 3-star banger is that whatever it does, it's doing that thing really well. Whereas someone else might vote it just outside in general and say, oh, this is only a 2-star movie or a whatever star movie, but they're not really rating it in its own kind of world. And in the world this is in, this kind of, I keep using the word traditional, so I use something else, but in this very kind of a well-worn style of kind of gothic suspense thriller sort of movie. In that world, this is a really well-done version of that, and something you don't see a lot anymore. So I think it's a 3-star banger in that sense. And I enjoyed it enough. I enjoyed the movie. I wasn't super scared. I wasn't super grossed out, but I was still invested in the story, and it pulled me through, and it kept moving, and I appreciated that. But as you probably also capture from the way I was describing some of the tropes and the, like I said, Chekhov's areas in this manner, I also wasn't super surprised by it. And it was a level of predictability and kind of familiarness to it that I think was also somewhat of a detriment. Now, my biggest weird reaction to this movie, and this is fully me, but I think it is good to bring up just because these kind of things happen. Sometimes our biases, whatever they are in our lives, enter our reactions to a movie. So we're in highly politicized times, so you can just tune this part out if you want, but I thought it was interesting. And you can't make a movie like this, like in a bubble or fully erased from the world that we live in. And even though it's a period piece and all that would erase it somewhat from the world we live in, obviously. But I came to this and my liberal spidey senses kept picking up things. And sometimes I get these kind of movies where I'm like, this feels like an Angel Studios movie, or this feels like something that's very coded to the right. And this movie has a weird, subtle edge to that I think could be seen, although it definitely could just be my liberal bias seeing it here. And I can discount it. I think that most likely the producers of this movie had no intention of what I'm going to say, but there was something weird about the basic concept of this, and that is you've got this killer, this threatening killer guy, and he is of undetermined Latinx origin. Is he Mexican, Nicaragua? You don't know, but... And I didn't even mention the actors in this. Natalie is the main woman. That's Alicia Sands. And the client, the antagonist, is Raul Castillo. And he's of undetermined, like I said, Latinx origin. And he's literally from an insane asylum. He's literally trying to kill and attack this woman. And at one point he yells through the door or the wall or whatever, and he's trying to get in or whatever. And I'm going to kill your baby. So he's trying to kill her unborn baby. And see what I'm putting down here? Kill her unborn baby and invade her beautiful, palatial, rich, moneyed atmosphere, even though she is not personally that, but she's in that environment that he's trying to invade. Yeah, you kind of see what I'm getting at. Like I said, I don't think any of this is intended, and I really don't rate it based on that. If I did, I'd probably go really low. If I believe the filmmakers were really trying to do that kind of like messaging, I would definitely knock this way down. Like I said, 3-star banger. It's just interesting that it has all that messaging in there if you want it. And hopefully they didn't intend it. If they didn't intend it, they might want to think about, oh, wow, that's all in there. I guess it could be seen weird by somebody or seen as a message or a dog whistle for the side I don't want to give that to. Either way, I thought it was an interesting aspect of this movie that probably doesn't exist and is just in my brain. Whatever. If anyone else watches this, I'd be curious to see if you think I'm just being a nutso conspiracy theorist on this, which I don't tend to go into, but I just felt some weird vibes there. Okay, moving along. The other screener we had a lot of screeners this week. I only saw 2 of them. I really wanted to see one called Sovereign, and it sounds like it was great. I know Eric rated it as 5-star, and I really wanted to see it, but they sent the screener really weird, where there was only one screener to be shared, and once one person had it, you had to like access it through the other person's phone. So I didn't get to see it. So I would just trust Eric on that. I think it might be good because I was interested before I even saw it, and his rating makes me want to see it even more. The other movie I saw this week, I think was a little bit of a hidden gem. This is a little bit of a surprise for me. It's called Amongst the Wolves, directed by Mark O'Connor. And your main character is Danny, played by Luke McQuillan. You've got Kate, played by Louise Burke. You've got Power, played by Aidan Gillen. Aidan Gillen, he played like Littlefinger, I believe, in Game of Thrones. And you've seen this guy. This is one of those guys you've seen a bunch of. He almost always plays a smiling, quiet, menacing, bad guy. And that's exactly what he is here as well. And then the final character that kind of plays a lot in this is Will, played by Daniel Fee. This is an Irish movie. It's an Irish gritty crime drama thriller, really evenly mashed between the drama side and the thrillery side of it. Almost more of a revenge crime drama kind of a movie. And the poster and the name and all those things wouldn't necessarily make it seem like it's anything other than a bunch of those indie crime sort of movies. But I think this movie has a little bit something special going on here. So your basic concept here, I'll even throw this out. Blue Ruin. It's not as good as Blue Ruin, but I think this is tipping more on the Blue Ruin side of things than on just the generic crime thriller kind of side of things. So I think this, like I said, this has some really interesting kind of bones to it. Your main character, Danny, he is, at the beginning of the movie, he's basically homeless. He's literally living on the streets. And you don't know much about him. He's getting picked on by some young teen punks that come around and are like live streaming themselves, harassing him and stuff. And later on, he kind of retreats to this little encampment in the woods, and he's hanging out by a fire. And then this other kid, Will, approaches him, puts a knife to his throat. Of course, Will is living out in the forest too, and Will is like suspicious of this older guy, older being like mid-30s, 40. That's about the age of Danny. And Will is holding a knife to him, like, what are you doing to get away from my area, and blah, blah, blah. And Danny turns the tables on him, gets the knife, puts the knife to Will, and then basically says he's not looking for any kind of violence, or he's not looking for any fights. He's just trying to live his life, not to cause any trouble. And essentially these two create a friendship pretty quickly, to the point that Danny almost becomes a bit of a mentor for Will, because Will is a pretty young guy to be out on the streets, and Danny seems definitely more seasoned and more experienced in life. And as the movie goes forward, you're going to figure it's going to go this one way, because Will has got himself embroiled and mixed up with this kind of this drug dealing underworld, a group led by Power, which I mentioned earlier, and he's in trouble with them, and he's got to basically figure out how to fix that trouble or be in real danger from these guys. Like any organized crime kind of a group, if you do them wrong, your days may be numbered, or you're going to have to do something pretty extreme to get back in their good graces. And Danny's going to try to extricate Will from that situation. So you think that's it. That's the story of this movie. And that's a good enough basis, but also pretty basic. You've seen versions of that in movies before, but it's good enough. But then this movie does some really interesting and odd things. It really gets into where Danny came from. Why is he here on the streets? He was at the very beginning of the movie. You see him. He's a married dude with a kid getting a brand new house. And now you see him in this situation. You're like, how did he get here? What's going on with him? You get into his psyche. You get into some PTSD stuff he's got going on because he was in Afghanistan. You get into a really weird thing where he's meeting up with this woman who works at a kind of a shelter area where he can get food and drink and maybe a little bit of medical care if he got hurt out on the streets, that kind of thing. And this Kate character he meets up with, you think like they're almost setting it up like a romance between them. That goes in a really interesting direction you wouldn't expect. And the stuff with Will goes really interesting. And just Danny's path in general doesn't follow the really generic path that you get in these kind of movies. Once again, that's why I aim it towards Blue Ruin, where that also was almost more of a character study than it was an action revenge movie. This similarly is almost more of a character study of this Danny character than a straight up action movie. And I think it's all the better for that. And there's two other scenes I'd like to point out. I'm not going to describe them in detail. I'm just going to describe what they are. Two ones that really struck me and will really accentuate the good stuff that's going on in this movie. There's a scene where Power, and you remember he's the Aidan Gillen character, the guy that's the bad guy, the bad boss guy. There's a scene where he is telling a story about a dog to Will, and it is really striking and a really great character moment for him, and also chilling. And I loved that. And then conversely, there's a story told by Danny to Will about his experience in the war. And it's really telling about his character and chilling in its own way. And it's an obvious but a really good way to really set up the differences between these two kind of father, older man kind of like life views and how they're presenting it to this younger dude. So in a sense, they're vying for his soul, for this younger kid's soul in this movie. And how is that going to play out? And how is Danny's whole story going to play out? Once again, I think this movie is pretty compelling. Now, I'm not going to go like 5 stars for it, although if you're really into this kind of, I'm not into this kind of movie usually at all. These kind of movies, generally these kind of indie action, crime thriller kind of things don't really do much for me. They can be okay, but they don't really move the needle much for me. So I probably am going to go 5 stars for a kind of movie like this, but for a movie like this, I think it's really interesting and really good. So I'm going to go 4 stars for it. I don't know if Eric or Greg watched it, but if they did, I can't imagine they wouldn't both at least like it. And I could see one of them maybe loving this movie. I think this movie could go higher for me in the future if I saw it again, because like I said, there's some character stuff in here that's so good. And a great lead performance by Luke McQuillan. definitely point him out as I really was engaged by the way he took this role and gave it a real kind of emotional gravitas. And that's Amongst the Wolves by Mark O'Connor. Okay, last movie I have is an old movie, 1974. It's on Max, HBO Max now. The Night Porter, directed by Lilian Cavani. Now, why I heard about this movie a long time ago. And the only thing I knew about The Night Porter was I knew it was a very controversial movie and a real heavy movie. And I remember that's the things I heard about it. I think it was even in the box. We used to do What's in the Box. And I think I took it out of the box once and it wasn't showing anywhere or wasn't available anywhere unless you either bought it or unless you, I think maybe on Criterion Channel it goes on up and down on there sometimes, but it just appeared on HBO Max recently and I was like, I should probably check this out. And then it also showed up on a list on someone else's channel, someone's YouTube channel. I think it might have been Spooky Astronauts. She was talking about, I don't know, was it disturbing movies or something like that. Taboo movies. I think she was doing taboo movies. And that is a fitting title for this, Taboo. So this movie, I did a little looking at this movie afterwards. And the knock against this movie is that it's just straight up Nazi exploitation. Now you're going to be like, wait, what? What is this movie? Nazi exploitation, or almost like Nazi sexploitation. And now you'd be like, wait, what is this movie? The best way I can describe this movie before I just give you a quick little idea about the plot on it is it's somewhere between Last Tango in Paris and Sallow. And you're like, holy mackerel, what the heck is that movie? I would say it's more disturbing than Last Tango in Paris, but not near as graphically grotesque and gross and violent as Sallow. It's not even close to that. But emotionally, like where this movie sits emotionally and where it sits tonally is somewhere between those two movies. And it also has that 70s gritty, like just there's a weird mood you get sometimes from 70s movies. Specifically, I was also thinking of Don't Look Now. And it's not Don't Look Now at all in the story, at all. But just the feel that all those movies have. There's that kind of gray, just like I said, grittiness, that kind of texture that you get with those 70s movies sometimes that just feels gross in a weird way and just messy and just, it's in that world. Basic thing in this is you got Max, played by Dirk Bogarde. He is the night porter. He basically it's in Vienna in the 50s, I do believe. It was filmed in the 70s, but it's supposed to take place in the 50s, 10, 12, 15 years after World War II. So not long after World War II. And the idea is there's lots of people, lots of ex-Nazis or people that were collaborators with the Nazis, still alive and around Austria and Vienna specifically, where this movie takes place. And they may or may not be in hiding, and they may or may not be trying to erase their past. And this hotel seems to be a haven for those sorts of people, because you start out just watching this Max character, and he is almost like the king of this little castle. There's like this almost like this weird circus-like attitude of this hotel where it seems like there's a lot of long-term residents, and it seems like a lot of them are in hiding, and it seems like a lot of them may or may not be ex-Nazis. And you see him doing his rounds, and there's this older woman, and she asks for younger men to be sent to her. And there's this other young guy that he goes to his apartment, and he's youngish, and he will do like a ballet, like a dance routine for Max, and Max will hold the spotlight. So it's kind of cabaret, kind of weird feeling of this whole hotel, like this menagerie of oddballs in there. And very quickly, though, his whole routine, his whole little mini world there is upended when Lucia shows up. Lucia is played by Charlotte Rampling. And if Charlotte Rampling, very famous actor, she's been in a million things. Probably one of those people you know her by face, but not by name necessarily. And she now plays a lot of, I'd say currently she plays a lot of older grande dame type women. You'll see her in, I think she may have been in Game of Thrones too. I don't remember I know she's been in a lot of things where you see her now. She's kind of like a stately older British woman. You may never think that she was in these kind of movies, these very daring, highly sexually charged and like politically charged movies. You would not think of that about her, but lo and behold, that's what she was doing in this era. And she shows up, Lucia shows up with her husband. Her husband's a conductor. There's a performance happening in Vienna, and they come and stay at this hotel. And almost immediately, you can tell that Lucia and Max know each other. And neither of them say they know each other, but you can tell they both see each other. They both know who each other is, and they both look freaked out by it. And that's the beginning of this very odd, probably one of the most toxic, quote, love stories. I don't know if it's a love story, but toxic relationship stories I've ever seen on film. And that's even above Sid and Nancy, or if you can pick some, I don't know, Leaving Las Vegas. You can think of, or Last Tango in Paris, like mentioned earlier. You can think of the most toxic kind of relationship stories ever. This has got to be way up towards the top, because you discover very quickly that Max was an SS guard and Lucia was a young girl, because this is years later. So she must have been like in her teens, and now she's in her, like, I don't know, late 20s, maybe 30 at the most. Lucia was essentially one of the victims of this concentration camp. So she was in a concentration camp being literally abused in a whole variety of ways by Max. And you do get some flashbacks and a lot of current stuff. And essentially, this movie, on the bad side, you could cynically say that this movie is just a totally exploitative movie about like the love between abuser and abused, and like what is it saying about the world. And it's like glamorizing and sexualizing the concentration camp Nazi experience, which of course would be horrifying. On the other side, and I think the people who have come to find some value in this movie, on the other side, you could see this movie as really exploring this very broken way that this highly abusive situation, highly abusive power situation can, like I said, he's broken, and like he has crushed kind of the entire person of Lucia to the point that her identity is now just stuck in this abuse circle and cycle with Max, and how horrifying, and how just the two of them together are just even worse. And it's a lot. Can I recommend this movie to most people? Absolutely not. This is unrecommendable for 90% of the people. But if you like super daring cinema, or at least are interested in really daring cinema and transgressive cinema, and cinema that is not afraid to just really go out on a limb, then this is definitely one worth checking out. There is, in a lot of the posters, you'll see this shot of her where she's topless and wearing this Nazi uniform sort of a thing. And that is part of a central kind of a scene in this movie where you're having a flashback, and she is performing for a whole group of Nazis in the camp. And boy, oh boy, that scene is uncomfortable. And the end of that scene, there's a moment at the end of that scene that is it's not a violent moment per se, but it is an emotionally a absolute gut punch, and the moment where you see the true evil and depravity of just the world she's in, as well as Max's character and specifically, and it absolutely taints everything between them for the entire movie. Because if you watch that scene and still think this movie thinks that they have a true love story, then you really haven't been paying attention at all. But yeah, this is an amazing movie in the fact that something from the 70s, early 70s, still can be pretty darn shocking. I think this movie is a very, very bold movie, and still to this day would be very bold. Like I said, if you're willing to go down those paths, I think it's worth your time. It may not be something you'd ever want to rewatch again, but like the other movies I mentioned as comparisons, there's some value to be had here, and some pretty amazing central performances. Last thing I would say, Charlotte Rampling's central performance here is, and his performance too, but especially her performance, is one of those like daring, really daring actor performances, like Possession or something, where they're giving it their all, and you're just hoping the movie is up to meet the level of commitment the actor has for it and make it worth it. I'm going to probably go 4 stars for this movie. I really can't go higher than that, because there is a nagging question on, is it valuable or is it exploitation? But that being said, I see a lot of good here, and there's a lot that I will never forget about this movie. So I'm going to go 4 stars for The Night Porter. If any of you have seen it or do end up seeing it, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. But don't say I didn't warn you. It's probably not going to be for most people. And if you don't like movies that tend to be very heavy or very disturbing, then don't even dip your toe in this one. All right, that's all I got for this week. I hope we have some really cool movies up next week, but we had some pretty interesting movies up this week. The big surprise for me, once again, was Amongst the Wolves, and everything, though, was at least good. I look forward to talking to you next week, and hopefully the sound was decent on this.